I survived hell and came out royalty.
The day my stepbrother fired me from our family's company, I thought my life was over. I didn't know it was actually just beginning. My name is Maya Henderson, and for 12 years, I poured my soul into Henderson Logistics, the company my father built from nothing. I wasn't just an employee. I was the backbone. While others clocked in and out, I stayed late. While others took vacations, I covered their shifts. I knew every client by name, every route by heart, every problem before it became a crisis. My father used to say, "Maya, this company runs because of you. When I'm ready to step back, it's yours." I believed him. Then everything changed in one terrible moment. Dad collapsed in his office on a Tuesday afternoon. Massive stroke. By the time the ambulance arrived, he'd lost consciousness. At the hospital, the doctor's words felt like knives: severe brain damage, amnesia, may never fully recover. The man who built an empire from nothing couldn't remember his own name. While I sat beside his hospital bed, holding his hand and praying he'd recognize me, my stepbrother Marcus was making his move. Marcus was my father's son from his first marriage. He joined the company 5 years ago, not because he loved the work, but because he loved the idea of power. He was charming when he needed to be, ruthless when no one was watching. 3 days after Dad's stroke, I walked into the office exhausted from sleepless nights at the hospital. The receptionist wouldn't meet my eyes. Colleagues turned away when I passed. Something was wrong. I found out what when I reached my office. Marcus was sitting at my desk. Not visiting. Sitting. Like it was his. "What are you doing?" I asked. He looked up slowly, a smile playing at his lips. "Maya, we need to talk." "Talk about what? Why are you in my office?" He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with deliberate precision. The board held an emergency meeting last night. With Dad incapacitated, we needed immediate leadership. I've been named interim CEO. My stomach dropped. Interim CEO? Marcus, I've been running operations for over a decade. You've been here 5 years and barely. Barely what? His voice turned cold. Barely earned it? Is that what you were going to say? I didn't mean. Here's the thing, Maya. He walked around the desk, standing too close. Dad's not coming back. The doctors said so. Even if he wakes up, he won't remember this place. Won't remember you. And frankly, the company needs fresh vision. Your way of doing things is outdated. Outdated? I've increased efficiency by 40% in 3 years. Client retention is at an all-time high. Those are my numbers, Marcus. Were your numbers? He opened a folder on the desk, my desk, and slid a paper toward me. This is your severance package. Security will escort you out in 10 minutes. Please don't make a scene. The room tilted. You're firing me? I'm restructuring. Nothing personal. Nothing personal? This is our father's company. No. His smile vanished. It's my company now. And I don't need you here reminding everyone of the old ways. Pack your things. I looked at the paper. 12 years reduced to a number. My father's life's work, the place I'd called home, being ripped away by someone who saw it as nothing but a trophy. Does Dad know about this? Marcus laughed, actually laughed. Dad doesn't know what day it is, Maya. He's gone. And you need to accept that. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. I'll never forget walking out of that building with a security guard at my elbow, carrying a cardboard box of my belongings. People I'd worked beside for years stared from their desks. Some looked sympathetic. Most looked away. Marcus watched from his new office window, arms crossed, face expressionless. That night, I sat in my apartment surrounded by silence. No calls from colleagues. No texts. Nothing. It was like I'd never existed. But the worst part wasn't losing my job. It was losing access to my father. Marcus had himself named Dad's primary medical decision-maker. When I showed up at the hospital the next day, there was a note at the nurse's station. Maya Henderson is no longer authorized for visitation. I begged. I pleaded. I showed them pictures of me and Dad together, proved I was his daughter. It didn't matter. Marcus had legal authority, and he'd made his decision clear. I'm protecting him, he told me over the phone, voice dripping with false concern. You're too emotional right now. It's not good for his recovery. You're keeping me from my own father. I'm doing what's best for the family business. Dad would understand. He hung up before I could respond. I spent the next 2 weeks in a fog. My savings were decent, but not enough to last long in an expensive city. I applied to jobs, but every interviewer asked the same question. Why did you leave Henderson Logistics? How could I explain? My stepbrother staged a coup while my father lay in a coma. It sounded insane. So I gave vague answers about restructuring and seeking new opportunities, and watched their expressions shift from interested to skeptical. Rejection after rejection piled up. I stopped sleeping. Stopped eating properly. Spent hours scrolling through photos of Dad and me at company events, remembering when things made sense. My best friend, Tasha, finally staged an intervention. She showed up at my apartment with groceries and wouldn't leave until I showered and ate. You can't let him destroy you, she said, sitting across from me at my tiny kitchen table. He already has. No, he took your job. He can't take who you are. Who am I without that company, Tasha? It was everything. You're the woman who built that company's reputation. You think clients stayed loyal because of the Henderson name? They stayed because of you. Because you answered calls at midnight. Because you solved problems no one else could solve. That doesn't disappear because Marcus signed a paper. Her words were kind, but they felt hollow. Because the truth was, I felt invisible. Erased. Then, 3 weeks after being fired, I hit rock bottom. I was at the grocery store, choosing between 2 cans of soup because I could only afford one, when I saw Marcus. He was laughing with a woman I didn't recognize, pushing a cart full of expensive wine and steaks. He saw me. I know he did. Our eyes met across the aisle. He looked right through me, turned away, kept laughing. I abandoned my cart and left the store. Sat in my car and cried until I couldn't breathe. That night, I wrote a resignation letter to life itself. I didn't want to exist anymore. The pain was too much. Everything I'd worked for, everyone I'd loved, gone. I was holding the bottle of pills when my phone rang. I almost didn't answer. Unknown number. Probably spam. But something made me pick up. Is this Maya Henderson? The voice was deep, professional, unfamiliar. Who's asking? My name is David Chin. I'm calling about a logistics consultation. I got your name from Patricia Morales at Coastal Freight. She said you're the best in the business. Patricia. A client I'd worked with for years. She remembered me. I'm not currently. Ms. Morales said you might say that. She also said if I needed someone who actually knows what they're doing, you're the only call worth making. I'm willing to pay premium rates for your expertise. I looked at the pill bottle in my other hand. Then at the phone. What kind of consultation? I'm opening a new shipping operation. $30 million investment. I need someone to design the infrastructure from the ground up. 3-month contract. If you're interested, I'd like to meet tomorrow. $30 million. 3 months. A lifeline exactly when I needed it most. I'm interested, I said quietly. Excellent. I'll send the details. And Ms. Henderson? Patricia said you were going through a difficult time. I believe in second chances. See you tomorrow. He hung up before I could respond. I set the pill bottle down and didn't pick it up again. The next morning, I dressed in my best suit and took the train to downtown. The address led to a sleek high-rise I'd passed 100 times but never entered. David Chen's office was on the 45th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. When his assistant showed me in, I expected someone older. Established. Instead, I found a man maybe 5 years older than me, wearing jeans and a button-down, studying blueprints spread across a massive desk. He looked up and smiled. A real smile. The kind I hadn't seen in weeks. Maya Henderson. Thank you for coming. Thank you for calling, Mr. Chen. David, please. He gestured to a chair. Patricia speaks very highly of you. Said you turned her operation from chaos to clockwork in 6 months. She's very kind. She's very honest. Which is why I trust her judgment. He leaned back, studying me. I'm going to be direct. I know you were let go from Henderson Logistics. I know it was recent. I don't care about the politics. I care about results. Can you deliver? For the first time in weeks, someone was asking me about my skills, not my circumstances. Yes, I said firmly. I can deliver. Good. Because I don't need someone to execute someone else's vision. I need someone to create the vision. Full autonomy. You design the system, hire the team, build the infrastructure. I sign the checks and stay out of your way. Sound fair? It sounded impossible. It sounded perfect. More than fair. Then let's get started. Over the next 3 months, I threw myself into David's project. It was grueling work, 14-hour days, constant problem solving, building something from absolute zero. But it was also exhilarating. David wasn't just a client. He was a partner. When I presented ideas, he listened. When I hit obstacles, he found resources. He trusted me completely, and that trust felt like oxygen after months of suffocation. Slowly, I started to feel like myself again. We worked late most nights, ordering takeout and spreading plans across his conference table. Somewhere between route optimization and vendor negotiations, we started talking about other things. Life, loss, dreams. I told him about my father, about the stroke, about Marcus. That's not just business, David said quietly. That's betrayal. He'd say he's protecting the company. He's protecting himself. There's a difference. David told me his story too. He'd built his wealth from nothing, just like my father. Started with one delivery truck and a dream. Now he owned a portfolio of companies across 3 states. I almost lost everything once, he admitted one night. Bad partner. Worse decisions. I had to rebuild from the ground up. It's why I value people who've been through fire. They know what matters. What matters? I asked. Integrity. Loyalty. Showing up when it's hard. He met my eyes. You show up, Maya. Every single day. Something shifted between us in that moment. Something beyond professional respect. By month 3, David's operation was fully functional and exceeding projections. I'd hired a team of 20, established partnerships with 5 major carriers, and designed a routing system that cut costs by 30%. David threw a launch party at his penthouse. The whole team was there, celebrating. At the end of the night, after everyone else had left, he and I stood on his balcony, looking out at the city lights. You did it, he said softly. Built something remarkable. We did it. No. He turned to face me. This is you. I just gave you the space to be brilliant. My heart was pounding. David, I know this is complicated. I know you're still healing. But I need you to know something. He took a breath. You're the most extraordinary person I've ever met. And I don't want this to end when the contract does. The project. Us. I should have been cautious. Should have protected myself. But standing there, looking at a man who saw me really saw me, I made a choice. I kissed him. And everything changed again. David and I didn't rush things. We dated slowly, carefully, building something real. He never pressured me. Never tried to fix the broken parts. He just stood beside me while I healed. 6 months after we met, he proposed. Not with a flashy public display, but with a quiet question over breakfast in his kitchen. Marry me. Not because it makes sense. Not because it's time. But because I can't imagine my life without you in it. I said yes through tears. We got married 3 months later in a small ceremony with close friends. Tasha was my maid of honor. Patricia from Coastal Freight came and cried the whole time. My father wasn't there. I'd tried to see him dozens of times, but Marcus still blocked every attempt. The hole in my heart where Dad should have been ached through the entire ceremony. But David held my hand and promised me we'd find a way. Somehow. Life with David was different from anything I'd known. He was generous, thoughtful, and deeply kind. We built a life together, a real partnership. He expanded his business empire, and I became his most trusted advisor, the person he turned to for every major decision. A year after we married, I found out I was pregnant. The day I told David, he cried. Actually cried. Put his hand on my still flat stomach and said, "We're going to be a family." "We already are," I whispered. "A bigger family." Our son, Joshua, was born on a rainy April morning. 8 pounds 6 ounces, with his father's eyes and my stubborn chin. Holding him for the first time, I felt a completeness I didn't know was possible. But underneath the joy, the grief remained. My father still didn't know he had a grandson. Didn't know I was married. Didn't know I'd survived. I tried to let it go. Tried to focus on the beautiful life I'd built. But late at night, feeding Joshua while David slept, I'd think about Dad lying in some care facility, alone, his memory stolen by illness and his son stolen by Marcus's greed. Then, 2 years after being fired, everything shifted. I was having lunch with Tasha when my phone buzzed. Email from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line, "You need to see this." I opened it. Inside was a link to a news article. Henderson Logistics under federal investigation for fraud. My hands went numb. The article detailed everything. Marcus had been cooking the books, creating shell companies, and funneling money out of the business. Clients were filing complaints. Employees were being laid off. The company was hemorrhaging cash. "Oh my God," Tasha breathed, reading over my shoulder. I kept scrolling. Then I saw it. A quote from Marcus, trying to defend himself. "These allegations are baseless. Henderson Logistics has been profitable under my leadership. Any financial irregularities occurred before my tenure, likely under previous management." He was trying to blame my father. A man who couldn't defend himself. A man who'd built that company with honest work and integrity. The rage that flooded through me was white-hot and clarifying. "I have to stop him," I said. "Maya, you can't. He's destroying Dad's legacy. He's lying about a man who can't speak for himself. I can't let him do this." That night, I told David everything. He listened without interrupting, then said quietly, "What do you need?" "Access to the old files. Evidence. Something to prove Marcus is lying. I know people. Lawyers. Forensic accountants. We'll build a case. David, this could get messy." He took my hands. "You fought for my company when I barely knew you. You think I won't fight for your father? For you." The investigation took months. David hired the best attorneys money could buy. They subpoenaed records, interviewed former employees, traced every dollar Marcus had moved. And piece by piece, we built the truth. Marcus had started embezzling within 6 months of taking over. He created fake vendors, inflated invoices, and pocketed the difference. Over 2 years, he'd stolen nearly $3 million. But he'd been sloppy, arrogant. He'd assumed no one would look closely enough to notice. He was wrong. The federal prosecutor handling the case called me personally. "Miss Henderson, we have enough to file charges. But I want you to know, this is going to be public. Your family's name will be in the news. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about my father. About Joshua. About the life I'd built from ashes. "I'm prepared," I said. The day Marcus was arrested, I wasn't there. I was at home with Joshua, feeding him breakfast, when David called. "It's done. They took him in an hour ago." I set down the baby's spoon and exhaled a breath I'd been holding for years. That evening, the story was everywhere. News vans outside Henderson Logistics. Marcus being led away in handcuffs. Headlines screaming about fraud and betrayal. My phone exploded with messages. Former colleagues. Clients. Even people I hadn't spoken to in years. But the call that mattered came 3 days later. A nurse from Meadowbrook Care Facility, where my father had been living. "Miss Henderson? This is Teresa. I'm your father's primary nurse. I need to tell you something. Mr. Marcus Henderson is no longer listed as medical proxy. The facility administrator reviewed the case after the arrest, and since you're the biological daughter, they've restored your visitation rights." My vision blurred. "I can see him? Anytime. He's in room 304. I should warn you, though, he still doesn't have clear memories. The amnesia hasn't improved much. He may not recognize you. I don't care. I just need to see him." The next morning, David stayed home with Joshua while I drove to Meadowbrook. My hands shook on the steering wheel. The facility was nicer than I'd imagined. Clean. Quiet. Sunlight streaming through wide windows. Teresa met me at the nurse's station. She was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes. He's having a good day today, she said gently. Alert. Calm. Just don't expect too much. She led me down a hallway to room 304. Knocked softly, then opened the door. My father sat in a chair by the window, staring out at a garden. He'd lost weight. His hair had gone completely white. But it was him. Mr. Henderson, Teresa said softly. You have a visitor. He turned slowly. His eyes, still the same warm brown I remembered, scanned my face with polite confusion. Hello, he said carefully. Like I was a stranger. My throat closed up. Hi, Dad, I managed. It's me. Maya. He blinked. Maya. Your daughter. He studied me, brow furrowed. I'm sorry. I don't. It's okay. I moved closer, sat in the chair across from him. You've been sick. It's okay that you don't remember. He looked distressed. I should remember. If you're my daughter, I should remember. It's not your fault. We sat in silence for a moment. Then he asked, What's your name again? Maya. Maya, he repeated, like testing the word. That's a pretty name. I smiled through tears. You picked it. Over the next weeks, I visited every day. Sometimes he remembered fragments. Other times, I was a stranger. But slowly, carefully, we built something new. I told him about the company. About Marcus. About what had happened. He listened, shaking his head sadly. I must have been a fool, he said one day. To trust someone like that. You weren't a fool. You were a father. You wanted to believe the best. He looked at me with sudden clarity. But I had you. Didn't I? Why didn't I trust you? The question broke me. I don't know, Dad. I'm sorry, Maya. His eyes filled with tears. I don't remember what I did. But if I hurt you, I'm sorry. You didn't hurt me. You loved me. That's what I remember. One afternoon, I brought Joshua. My father held his grandson carefully, staring down at the tiny face with wonder. Who is this? He asked. Your grandson. Joshua. Mine? Yours. He started to cry. I have a grandson. You do? I wish I could remember. I wish I knew him. You're knowing him now, I said softly. That's what matters. Meanwhile, Marcus's trial was moving forward. The evidence was overwhelming. His own arrogance had created a paper trail even a first-year law student couldn't miss. David's attorneys kept me updated. Marcus tried to negotiate. Tried to claim diminished capacity. Tried everything. The prosecution wasn't interested. 6 months after his arrest, the trial concluded. Marcus was convicted on 14 counts of fraud, embezzlement, and falsifying business records. He was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. When the verdict was read, I was sitting in the courtroom with David beside me. Marcus turned, found me in the gallery, and the look on his face was pure hatred. I met his eyes calmly. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I smiled. Not with cruelty. Not with triumph. But with peace. Because I'd won. Not by destroying him, he'd done that himself. But by surviving. By building something he could never touch. With Marcus in prison, the company fell into chaos. Clients fled. Investors pulled out. The board of directors faced bankruptcy within months. They reached out to me through David's attorneys. The proposal was simple: return as CEO. Salvage what was left. Rebuild my father's legacy. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I sat with David that night after Joshua was asleep. What do you want to do? He asked. I don't know. Part of me wants to let it burn. Let Marcus's mistakes destroy everything, just like he tried to destroy me. But it's not just Marcus's company. It's Dad's. It's the people who still work there. The clients who trusted us. If I let it fail, they all suffer. David nodded. So, what does your gut say? I closed my eyes, thinking about everything that had happened. The betrayal. The pain. The slow, hard climb back to myself. My gut says I didn't survive all of this just to let someone else's mistakes define me. I survived to build something better. Then build it. The next day, I accepted the board's offer with conditions. Full operational control. No interference. And a complete ethical overhaul of every department. They agreed to everything. Walking back into Henderson Logistics 3 years after being escorted out felt surreal. The building looked the same, but everything else had changed. Or maybe I had. The staff was wary at first. Uncertain. But I didn't come in with speeches or promises. I came in with work. I met with every department, reviewed every contract, rebuilt relationships with clients Marcus had burned. It was exhausting, relentless work. But slowly, the company stabilized. We restructured debt, negotiated with creditors. I personally called every major client and promised them accountability and excellence. Some came back, some didn't. But enough stayed to give us a foundation. Within a year, we were profitable again. Within 2 years, we'd exceeded our pre-Marcus numbers. The board wanted to celebrate, throw galas, do press releases. I refused. We don't celebrate recovering from self-inflicted wounds. We just do better. Instead, I focused on the people I promoted from within, invested in training, created profit-sharing programs so every employee had a stake in our success. Henderson Logistics became a different kind of company, one built on trust and integrity, not just profit. And every decision I made thinking about my father, about the man who'd built something from nothing and taught me that work was about more than money, it was about dignity. I visited Dad 3 times a week. His memory never fully returned, but he started to recognize me. Started to smile when I walked in. "There's my girl," he'd say, not quite sure why, but knowing it was true. One afternoon, I brought him to the office, pushed his wheelchair through the building he'd built. Employees greeted him warmly, even though most knew he didn't remember them. He looked around with wonder, like seeing it for the first time. "Did I build this?" he asked. "You did, Dad." "It's nice." "It is." He looked up at me. "Are you taking care of it?" "I'm trying." "Good." He patted my hand. "That's good." That moment meant more to me than any profit report or award ever could. It's been 5 years since Marcus was arrested. 5 years since I walked back into Henderson Logistics. The company is thriving. We've expanded into new markets, opened 3 new distribution centers, and doubled our workforce. More importantly, we've built a culture I'm proud of. People stay because they want to, not because they have to. Turnover is the lowest it's ever been. My father passed away peacefully 2 years ago. The amnesia never lifted completely, but in his final weeks, he had moments of clarity. In one of them, he looked at me and said, "Maya, I'm proud of you. You remember me? I remember you were always the strong one. Even when I forgot." Those were some of the last words he spoke. We buried him next to my mother in a quiet ceremony. Joshua, now 4 years old, laid flowers on the grave. "Is that Grandpa?" he asked. "Yes, baby." "Did he know me?" "He loved you very much." David stood beside me, hand on my shoulder, as we said goodbye to the man who'd given me everything, lost it all, and somehow, through his absence, taught me how to stand on my own. Marcus is still in prison. He'll be there for 8 more years. I haven't visited him. Haven't written. I don't hate him anymore, but I don't need closure either. Some people don't deserve space in your healing. Last month, I did something I never imagined I'd do. I established the Henderson Family Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to helping people who've lost their livelihoods due to corporate fraud or family betrayal. We provide legal support, job training, and mental health resources. Because I know what it feels like to have everything taken away. And I know how hard it is to rebuild. At the launch event, a woman approached me with tears in her eyes. "You don't know me," she said. "But I worked at Henderson Logistics when your stepbrother was there. I was laid off when everything fell apart. Lost my house. Almost lost my kids. My heart sank. I'm so sorry." "No." She shook her head. "You brought me back. Gave me my job. Helped me rebuild. You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." "Why?" I thought about the question. About the woman I'd been, sitting in her apartment with a bottle of pills, convinced the pain would never end. Because someone gave me a second chance when I needed it most. I'm just passing it forward. She hugged me, and I let her. That night, David and I sat on our back porch watching Joshua play in the yard. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. "You did it," David said quietly. "Did what?" built something beautiful. From ashes. I leaned against him. We did it. No, Maya. This was always you. I just got to watch. I looked out at our son, at the life we'd built, at the company my father started and I'd saved. And I realized something. Marcus took my job, took my father's memory, tried to take my future. But he couldn't take who I was. The fire he set didn't destroy me. It forged me into something stronger. Something he could never touch or understand. I didn't win by being cruel. I won by being resilient. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all. Sometimes, people ask me if I regret what happened. If I wish Marcus had never betrayed me. The truth is complicated. I hate what he did. I hate the pain he caused. I hate that my father died without fully knowing the woman I became. But I also know this. I wouldn't be who I am today without that fire. I wouldn't have met David. Wouldn't have Joshua. Wouldn't have learned what I'm capable of when everything is taken away. Betrayal is a strange teacher. It shows you who you are when the masks come off. And what I learned about myself is this. I am not defined by what people take from me. I'm defined by what I build after they're done trying to break me. If you're watching this and you're in your own fire right now, whether it's family, work, or something else, I want you to hear this. You're stronger than you know. The people who betray you are revealing their own weakness, not yours. And when you rise from the ashes, and you will rise, you'll be someone they could never imagine. Someone free. So here's my question for you. What would you have done if you were in my position? Would you have fought back, or would you have walked away for good? Tell me in the comments. I'd really love to know. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Because your story isn't over either. It's